So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 17 Pro Max versus Galaxy S26 Ultra 4 months later review. Let's begin with a wear and tear check. So I'm not going to have too much to speak of here on the 17 Pro Max, besides the fact that I do have a couple of dents in the corner of my phone. I did drop it in a Target parking lot, so it hit the cement. I was rushing in the store, and I did get myself a couple of dents. Now down at the bottom, it does pick up a little bit of dirt on the aluminum, but it seems to come right off. One thing about this orange color option is that it doesn't really show too much chipping or scratching around that charging port. I wonder if that's different on the midnight blue. If you do have a blue option, let me know if you're seeing like a little bit of nicks or anything around the charging area, simply because the darker colors usually show that a little bit more. Off to the right side, not seeing too much. Up at the top here, you know, the aluminum can dent if you drop it wrong, but overall, I'm holding up pretty good here. At the top, nothing too much to speak of. Usually when the phone drops, it doesn't hit this area, so that's not a problem. And I've kept the screen protector on the front, so it's been pretty fine in that regard. Now for the Galaxy S26 Ultra, this one, I actually don't have anything to speak of when it comes to wear and tear, because it's not just because it's 4 months old, it's because the edges of this phone have made it easier to hold on to. I just simply don't drop this phone, really. We'll talk about ergonomics a little bit more later, but a little bit of a sneak preview to that. This one just really does make it a little bit easier to hold. You can see right here at the top, pretty much nothing, and the cameras do stick out kind of far, but again, with the flat rails on the side, I just simply do not drop this phone, so I like the grip on this one. So it's held up like basically brand new. I do have no screen protector on the front, which we can take a look at, and also scratch resistance has been pretty good as well. I don't have any scratches on the front display, even though I've had this phone in my pocket with keys. I've taken it out, thrown it around a little bit. So for sure, it's holding up pretty well on that front display. Let me go ahead and wipe some lint balls off of the front of that thing. But I'm happy to report the wear and tear has been solid for both of these phones after 4 months of use. But I still think both of them do require cases if you're going to keep them long term, because they both have aluminum, so they can easily get little dents and dings if you do drop them. But they're not going to like fall apart that easily, and they're both still glass, so they can't crack if you drop them hard enough. Now the next area I want to talk about is touch accuracy and haptics on both phones. So for the iPhone, I actually find its haptics, if you use the haptic keyboard, to be a little bit stronger than the one on the Galaxy. However, one of the areas I find a little bit better on the Galaxy, and it just happened right there, is touch accuracy. So I find myself not missing taps more on the Galaxy. I don't have to like usually, tap things twice. So this does occur a little bit more often, where I'll tap something, and you've probably seen it in my videos, and you've seen it right there where the iPhone just simply didn't respond there. So I find the touch accuracy to be a little bit better for the Samsung phone. That's just something I don't usually talk about, but it's something I've been experiencing to be better on the Galaxy. So I enjoy that aspect. Animations are also faster and more enjoyable after 4 months on the Galaxy, but they're getting better with 27 over here. So that's going to be a topic that's going to change up as we go further along in the 27. We'll talk more about that later this year. But yeah, so for haptics, when you do enable the haptic keyboard, better on the iPhone. But the touch response and accuracy I found to be a little bit more stable on the Samsung S26 Ultra. Now, biometrics, which one has been better? In the real world, I gotta say Face ID has been the one for iPhone over here that's been more enjoyable. You just encounter more scenarios in real life where the iPhone's Face ID is more handy. So when you have this phone propped up on a GPS mount for your car or your bicycle or something, you don't have to fiddle around with a fingerprint maybe on the side on some phones, or even in this case in the S26 Ultra within the display. All you got to do is kind of glance at it. One area where it's not so good though is if it's on a table, for example, you're typing on your laptop over here, or you're at a coffee shop, but you always have to pick it up to see it. So that's kind of annoying sometimes. But it's a small inconvenience. Where it is very convenient is when you have messy, wet hands, you're wearing gloves, it's cold out, you just look at the phone and it will unlock. Of course, you're going to have that little area on the glove that allows you for touch sense, because you still got to swipe, and that's one of the cons still. But I find that the main area where the S26 Ultra really wins is when you're wearing sunglasses and when you're like it could be in a dark room and whatever, you can always just tap the fingerprint. So there are some areas where this is better. In the summertime, wearing sunglasses a lot, you probably will benefit from that in-display fingerprint sensor. I just think it requires more active use. So basically, it's a little bit more of a lazy, passive feature here for the iPhone versus over here, you got to actively remember, let me hit that fingerprint. It just feels like a little bit more friction to get into the phone. But at the same time, you can use their face unlock on the Samsung, which just bypasses the lock screen. So, but the thing is that one is not quite Face ID level integration. So I got to say that Face ID to me has been the more convenient option of these two. So let's talk about the feature fatigue on the Samsung. So if you use the Samsung phone for any length of time, you'll know that the features just are endless. They go on and on. They combine Google apps with Samsung apps. The customization is extensive with Samsung's built-in customization, along with the customizations you can do on top of that with Android itself. And also, not just their customization within the Galaxy store, they also have a lot of advanced features in here. And so the features are endless. If you find phones like the iPhone to be really boring, this is going to be a breath of fresh air for you. However, with a busy lifestyle, if you have a busy lifestyle or whatever, this could feel like a little bit too much features going on. And I get it. You can just set the phone up to be simple the way you want it. But at the same time, I think when you're trying to be productive, having all these features is actually a good thing. It makes you more productive because you don't have to go to a laptop to do something as simple as a split screen option. You don't have to worry about, do I have to go to my tablet to use a pen to go ahead and sign a document because it has a built-in S Pen. And so the Samsung Galaxy is a little bit more of a complete phone here, I would say. But at the same time, it is a phone that kind of pulls you in. It makes you want to use it a lot. It's a little bit more distracting to me. And still to me, the iPhone's philosophy is a little bit more simple. And I think it's just kind of like in and out. But, most phones kind of have that just app use. But the iPhone is polished, simple. And I think most people just don't really think about it too much. It feels more appliance-like, if you will, day to day on the iPhone. And so 4 months in, right now, pretty busy in my current chapter of life right here. So I definitely prefer the iPhone simplicity for that sake. But when I do need to do anything beyond just simple stuff, I'm always got to go to my Samsung because it's like one of the few phones you can go to without having to go to a tablet or a laptop to get some serious stuff done. And so that's where Samsung still really shines. It's the better productivity tool. I think the iPhone is probably the better communication tool, but also the better tool for people who just don't want to be overwhelmed with features. And if you get a smaller or more base iPhone, it feels even more minimal because this one is trying to throw as much as they got into one package in the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So the next one is going to be Action Button versus S Pen. Which one is the more useful feature? Are both of these gimmicks? Well, Action Button is added up here to the silent switch. I gotta tell you, I really don't use this that much. I set it once and I forget it. So again, going to that simple feature set, some people will be playing around with this, but I literally forget sometimes that this is on the phone because I just set it up one time and I just use it for a silent mode like that. So you just kind of hold it there and you could switch between that. But it's kind of something that just lives up there and you don't really use it that much. Now over here on the S Pen, this is not something you tend to forget about on the Samsung. And I think I like what the S Pen offers more than just an action button because you can sign documents on here. You can draw if you get bored. You can go ahead and draw if you get bored. You can go ahead and add different things, screen write, translations, Creative Studio, AI selections. So the S Pen still has its usage, while Samsung's research has shown that not everybody really uses this. And even my own comment section will talk about how they don't really use this, a lot of people. The people who do use this are super happy that ecstatic that it still exists within the phone. However, they have been dialing it back, and I'm a little concerned that it might not be here forever. So take advantage of the current Samsung offerings that still bring the S Pen on board because it still is a useful, fun feature if you know how to integrate it into your daily life and workflow. I think once it becomes something used regularly, maybe for again, signing documents or whatever, maybe you want to do some digital art, you just want to take some notes handwritten, it can be an indispensable tool for a lot of people. So you really got to just decide which one you prefer between these two. You can get like an action button here, S Pen over here. You can use like a stylus on the iPhone, but they're not quite S Pen level. So that still, I think, hooks a lot of Samsung users. But I'm not sure the action button is such a hook like the S Pen is. Now, I want to talk about one area over my past 4 months that I've actually noticed a difference, and that is the speakers. So the Samsung gets louder by a good amount. Like you can hear it louder, specifically when you enable Dolby Atmos. However, they at the maximum volume, they can sound, I'm not going to say distorted, but like they're getting to be distorted a little bit at the highest volumes. They're not quite as crispy or as warm and bright as the iPhone at those high levels. But the iPhone at all ranges sounds to me a little bit more warm. It's just a little bit better sounding when it comes to vocals and stuff like that out the speaker. So I prefer the iPhone for the speaker phone call quality, the audio in general. But the Samsung to me is really good if you have a room full of people, you want them to hear a song because it's extremely loud. It gets very loud, and with Dolby Atmos, you can tweak different settings to music, movie, voice, and more. So neither of them are bad. Both of them are very good. It's just a Samsung to me at the highest volumes doesn't sound as good, but it's still strong. So nevertheless, you're still going to be happy either way. But I would say if you want louder audio, over here. If you want better sounding audio, over here. So when it comes to AI integration, Apple is still working on their current Siri and their current AI updates for iOS 27. But over here on the Samsung, if we go back and we go to Galaxy AI, we've been talking about this for a couple of years since S24 Ultra. They added some now nudging this year. And I think the way they've integrated into the One UI has been actually pretty smart. You'll see like little things here and there, like in weather and little notifications here and there and stuff like where it's integrated into the software. And I think it's pretty useful, especially when you're like trying to erase backgrounds of images and stuff. So AI stuff is not like too gimmicky. There are a few things where you won't really use it that much, but having things like a weather wallpaper is pretty cool. And some of these things might never get used, but it's kind of like one of those typical Samsung things where if it's there, if you need it, it's there. If you don't, it's still there. So you kind of have that peace of mind that you can use it if you need this stuff. But at the same time, I think right now, the AI integration is far ahead on the Samsung with the Gemini over here. But I do gotta say that Apple Intelligence works fine. Visual intelligence is fine. You can access this via the control center or just holding down right here. We're still on 26. Version 27 does enhance the series significantly. We talked about that in our 27 video, but we still got a little bit of ways to go. Even when 27 launches, it's still going to have a few updates, and Apple's continuously working on this. So we are moving along with Apple's, and their writing tools are pretty similar, and the ability to do many AI tasks are going to just strongly improve. But right now, if you go into the summertime, you're looking for a phone, the Samsung is ready to go right now with, I would say, a much stronger AI experience. Now, earlier we talked about ergonomics, but I want to talk about slipperier. Which one is the slipperier phone? And I got to say, it is the iPhone by a good margin. This phone, bro, I'm telling you, I've never felt an iPhone in the past several years and needed a case more than 17 Pro and 17 Pro Max. The iPhone is just a slip fest over here. It's slipped out of my hands multiple videos we've made, and I just cannot go caseless without this. These dents I got on the phone that I showed you earlier, they actually came with a case on the phone. Now, I didn't drop it because it was slippery that day. It just fell out of my pocket. But at the same time, this phone, I mean, it's not just going to fall out of your hand randomly, but you'll feel it the minute you pick it up that it's not super grippy. And then combined with its heavy 233 grams, the phone is easy to drop. So if you get a 17 Pro Max, I highly suggest you get a case for this phone. Now, the Samsung S26 Ultra has been much better. Down here where, it's like flat, there's like curves over here. This is easier to rest your pinky on. You can grip these edges extremely tight. You can see the pressure I'm putting right there with my fingers. This phone is just easy to hold. You don't really, if you put a skin on the back of this phone that has some grip on it, I'm pretty sure you would never drop this phone. It's pretty easy to hold. So they win it out in ergonomics there. But there is one con to this design. It's not as comfortable in the hand. While it does have more smooth edges and they're going towards a more comfortable design, it still does have a little bit of a sharper feel. not sharp like it's gonna poke you, just you feel the bulk and the squareness of this phone. Like, yes, it gives it that look that it's a Samsung, but at the same time, I'm not saying that they have to change it. I'm just saying when we're comparing these two, this phone still feels more comfortable, even if it does have a little bit more slipperiness. I will say though that the aluminum seems to dent easier on the iPhone between these two. Now, talking about heat and thermals, the iPhone has taken the W here. While we do have upgraded vapor chambers in both phones, including the S26 Ultra, they also went to an aluminum shell on here to dissipate heat even better on the S26 Ultra, coming down from titanium, which felt amazing on S24 Ultra. The S26 Ultra does get a little bit warmer in my experience when you are pushing the phone. It's not like horribly so, but it's a few degrees warmer. So Apple has won it out this year in thermals, which is something I didn't know I was ever going to say, because every year the Samsung seems to keep winning in the area of heat in the phone, like where it doesn't feel as hot to the touch. Although my S25 Ultra did get significantly warmer than S26 Ultra. So this is a really good year to go to either of these phones if you're looking for a phone that feels incredibly like cool to the touch throughout the day. And also charging, Samsung has the faster charging support. So if you do want quicker charging, Samsung's going to win it out by half an hour or so on charging. And that can be substantial if you're in a rush. So if you need that faster charging, it's over here. But I got to say that the iPhone 17 Pro Max still charges very, very quickly. And so I want to move on before we get up out of here and come to a conclusion on display. We do have to talk display. I'm not going to talk cameras in this video. I've talked that in my previous videos. I don't want to sound like a broken record player. I don't really got much to say about cameras in this one. Watch my 3 months review if you want to hear more about that. But display wise, the iPhone to me has been the one that kind of feels nicer in terms of the color because it's 10-bit, but it doesn't have a weird subpixel arrangement due to the privacy display. But on paper, the Samsung wins it out in terms of like spec. It has higher pixel density, and it does still look more Samsung vibrant. So if you're like, you want that pop and that vivid look, and then you want the innovative privacy display feature, there's no other choice besides the Samsung here. It is the more techy, innovative panel, but I think for real world everyday use, I've just enjoyed the 10-bit display on the iPhone a little bit more. Even though it has like a little bit of less features. So anti-glare properties also better on the Samsung. So 4 months in, I'm going to say it's still extremely exciting to use both phones. They're really fun to use. They have different perks and benefits. But at the end of the day, I thought we were at peak smartphones, but no. There's still some things to improve. Not everybody's a fan of this iPhone 17 Pro Max design. I think they can get even better battery life on both of these phones eventually with some silicon carbon technology. We still don't see all screen displays. We still got cutouts and punch holes. That's still a dream that hasn't been fulfilled, where we have phones with full displays, no cutouts, that can still give us good camera quality. We're still waiting on that technology advancement. So we're not done here. We got some ways to go. And a perfect smartphone might never exist because there's always going to be continuous improvement. But we are at a very, very good stage. And if you buy today, you're not going wrong either way. You really aren't. So that's my 4 months later review on these two. I'm going to probably do another one at 6 months. I don't think I'll do 5. Yeah, maybe. It depends if something changes. But stay tuned, because I like to keep the continuous updates on these phones to give you more content as to what I'm experiencing. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well. Thank you very much for watching, and peace.